Hey everyone, this is Scott and welcome to this week's Type 2 Tuesday. Before we get started this week though, I wanted to give a huge thank you to everybody who initially subscribed to my channel and also watched the first ever Type 2 Tuesday from last week. If you happen to miss it, you can catch it right up here. This week I'm going to not only give my normal update, but I'm also going to talk a little bit about a diabetic complication that I have and an upcoming treatment that I'm going to be having for it. So let's get started. First, let's go over my weekly update. I'm going to try this a little bit differently than I did in the first vlog. And if you guys have any suggestions on what you would like to see or how I could potentially do this part better, I would love to hear it down in the comments below. So for this week, instead of you just staring at my face while I talk, I was actually going to bring up some graphics on screen that went over my updates as I talk behind them. So let's get started on that. So let's kick things off with my average blood sugars for the week. My morning average was 122, and my post-meal average this week was 115. These are slightly higher than they were last week, but still within range, and I do bounce a little bit from week to week. Okay, now a quick update on my weight. I thought I would start doing my measurements as well, so I've neither gained nor lost any inches around my waist, but I did gain 2.8 pounds this week. I'm not too worried about it. My diet hasn't changed. I haven't fallen off the bandwagon. Everything's fine there. But what we're about to talk about is going to be my fitness update, and I think that contributed quite heavily, or probably 100%, to my 2.8 pound gain. Now for my fitness update, I don't have any historic data really to go off of yet since I'm just starting this, but to give you guys an update on what I've been doing in the last week, I have actually done some stuff. So the first thing is I went on several walks, and I also did some very light strength training at home with some dumbbells and resistance bands that I have. I'm pretty sure that my 2.8 pound spike that I had is directly related to this because I have been very sedentary, and even the simple act of just starting to exercise definitely I think has caused some water weight gain around my muscles because they are sore and they are building and repairing, and that does seem to fluctuate your weight a little bit. So I'm pretty sure that's all it is. I mean, I'll keep an eye on my weight, but I'm not really too concerned about it. If anything, I'm probably actually building some muscle. Like I've mentioned, I really have not had any level of fitness until now. So even basic things, I think my body is going to start to rebound faster and grow some muscle pretty quick, at least early on. So I'm really expecting my weight to either stay the same or maybe fluctuate and bump up a little bit if I am gaining more muscle than I am losing fat in a given week. So while I have just now started my fitness journey, I am experiencing some challenges getting into fitness. The biggest is probably around my neuropathy in my legs. I have really bad neuropathy in my feet. At one point they were completely numb. That has started to reverse since I've reversed my diabetes and kept my blood sugars under control for about half a year now, but they are still mostly numb. And that numbness actually used to travel, well, still does, all the way up to around my knees to some extent. So while I have begun to walk, it's actually painful for me to walk, and some days are worse than others, and how much I can actually do is kind of driven by the pain factor of my neuropathy. So with that in mind, I've set some really simple goals for myself. First is just consistency, getting out there, trying to work through any pain I do have, and at least getting in a little bit of fitness every day. I think that'll take me a long way into healing and allowing me to do more in the future. And the second part of my initial goal is just around endurance. I can't do much right now. I am really out of shape from being sick for so long and not doing anything for so long. So I'm working on that. I know that if I keep with it, my endurance will improve. So even though it's a little discouraging right now, especially from where I had been in the past, I just have to keep going and I'll eventually get there. Now I mentioned at the beginning of this video that I'm suffering some complications from diabetes. Of course, the first was just the neuropathy in my legs and how it's affecting my fitness and being able to exercise. But the other one is my eyes. I mentioned in the first video that I had retinal neuropathy, but I actually just went to the eye doctor and got an official diagnosis on what's going on with my eyes. So my diagnosis was something called Diabetic Macular Edema. And really what that means is I have a buildup of fluid in my eyes behind my retina, or in my retina, that's caused by leakage from having diabetes and the damage caused to the blood vessels inside my eye. This is actually pretty common for somebody who's had diabetes as long as I have and as severe as I've had it in the past. But other than that, I was doing pretty well. So I'm popping up right now on screen kind of a simulation that I made to show you guys what it looks like through my eyes. As you can see, I have some darkness and blurriness when I'm looking at text. But also if you look at the letters closely, you'll see some kind of disappear and warp and kind of pinch in. It's almost like looking through droplets of water, which is pretty much what's happening inside my eye. So of course, that can make it very difficult for me to read small text. And in my case, it's a little more extreme in my right eye than my left eye. Though I'm told my left eye is actually worse. I guess where the fluid is built up in my right eye just makes it harder for me to see out of that eye. So the next step is what can be done about it. Well, I'm actually going to be having injections into my eyeballs. Yeah, I know, freaks me out too, but I need to have 4 different treatments, first in one eye, then in the other, in order to try to improve this or at least stop any further damage. As far as if it will improve my eyesight, remains to be seen, and you guys will be the first to know on this channel. Currently, I'm just waiting to hear back on the timing, but they mentioned starting these treatments in about a month, and it would take about a 4-month period, so 1 treatment per month until they were done. From what I'm told, it really will only affect my eyesight for a day or 2. I don't know if it'll affect how I record and do these weekly updates, but we will see. More than likely, I'll be a pirate for a while. I'll be wearing an eye patch at least for 1 day. I don't know if I'll actually record on that day, but I'll give you guys more information as I learn more and go through the process. Okay, that was my update for the week. Now let's get to the questions. For today, we only have 1 question, being a new channel, but let's dive right into it. The question is, what foods do I eat in a day? So I'm going to actually be doing a whole video around my nutrition and what I do and don't do, but here's some highlights for now. Overall, I eat a very clean ketogenic diet, at least as clean as I can on the budget that I have, as well as do daily intermittent fasting. And it's really been that combination that has been the big success for me in reversing my type 2 diabetes. So what do I mean by clean keto? Well, for me, it means I just stick to basics. I just eat basic meats. I eat a lot of bacon and eggs and beef, fish, steaks when I can get them, sardines a lot. I'll eat a lot of Mediterranean foods, a lot of clean cheeses, Mediterranean cheeses like a feta. And I stick to healthy oils like olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil, the lards, butter, those kind of things that kind of go into the clean keto lifestyle. When it comes to vegetables these days, I keep it pretty basic. I eat leafy greens. I'll eat some cauliflower, though not as much as I did when I first started my journey, mainly because it's got a higher carb content. I'm trying to keep my carbs down. Broccoli, asparagus, Brussels sprouts, kale. I try to stay away from keto-friendly, addiction and trigger carb-related foods. Like I don't go seeking keto pancakes or brownies or bread for that matter. I just try to eat whole, natural, clean keto as I can. And I've had really good success with it, and I don't plan to change that anytime soon. And lastly, it's not really about what I eat, but more what I drink or don't drink. I have a hard rule of don't drink calories. So for the most part, I only drink water, black coffee, or green or black tea. I will have an occasional keto coffee. The way I make it is still pretty plain. I just take black coffee. I'll add 1 tablespoon of MCT oil and 2 tablespoons of heavy whipping cream. And, if I really want to treat myself, maybe I'll add in a little monk fruit to sweeten it even more, but not very often. The second part of that question was, are there any foods that I thought would be good for me or work well for me, but actually turned out not to and spike my blood sugar? Not really, because as I said, I'm not really trying to eat substitute things or anything weird or chemically or artificial sweeteners that could spike either my insulin or glucose levels. I stick pretty much to clean keto. I think there are a couple things that do a little bit, and I actually plan to do a lot more research into eating to my meter. And again, that's a whole video I want to make and to share with you all. But for now, the only thing that comes to mind is peanut butter. I love my peanut butter. It's been one of the harder things for me to give up in general. I really don't need to give it up. I mean, it is a keto-friendly food to an extent, maybe not the cleanest, but it's acceptable. I do only eat a very natural organic peanut butter that is just organic peanuts and sea salt. Those are the only 2 ingredients. So that helps a lot. But still, if I have a good amount of it, I do see my blood sugar spike up a bit. I would say that more than food, what really affects my blood sugar levels is if I eat later. The later I eat in the evening, then the higher my morning sugars will be. I could eat the same meal at 3 p.m. or at 7 p.m. and see a huge difference. If I eat at 3 p.m., I don't get the big spike, and I don't have the big spike the next morning. But if I eat later in the evening, for me anyway, it tends to spike me. And that probably leads me into the last thing that kind of is relevant into all this. And I mentioned I do daily intermittent fasting. So all that really means is, I eat in a time window, and I do not eat or drink calories outside of that window. For me, it's usually a 4 to 6 hour window. It depends. I switch it up. I sometimes eat one big meal a day, also called OMAD, or a lot of the times I'll actually eat 2 meals a day. I'll eat a bigger one and then a smaller one in that same 4 to 6 hour window. And you could also call that 2MAD. And I have been experimenting on when my time window is that I do eat. It used to be more towards the evening time, so say a late lunch and a dinner. But because I have been noticing my blood sugar levels will spike higher in the morning the later I eat, I've just started to move it into a more lunch and early evening, so say 3 or 4 p.m. for my last meal of the day, to see how that affects my blood sugars. I think it is going to help a bit, so I'm going to hopefully see if that works the way I think it will. And that's pretty much it for this week's update. So thank you again for tuning in. If you haven't yet, please subscribe, please share the channel, like the video. All that helps me spread the word and grow and be able to give you guys a lot more content. So in the future, I do plan, like I said, to do some educational videos around type 2 diabetes. I'm going to be sprinkling those in along with these weekly updates. If you would like me to do anything different in these updates, if there's information I'm not sharing that you would find interesting, please throw them in the comments and let me know. I'm all for modifying this format into something that helps you guys the most. So thanks again and have an awesome day.